Morning, good morning. Let's see if anybody gets on. Let's see who anybody gets on. Good morning. Anybody's here, just let me know in the comments. Let's see. Give it a minute. Let's give it a few minutes here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Jack, how are you? All right. How you doing, man? Good morning. Hope you're doing well. If this is your first time, welcome. We'll be talking about training for a sub 20-minute 5K today. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to put them out in the comments, okay? Billy, how you doing, man? Good morning. Good morning to you both. Just going to give another couple of minutes, see who else hops on. But we're going to talk about training for sub 20 today. I'm doing well, Jack. I'm doing well. I'm a little tired. Moving into a new house over the last week, so a little tired, but excited. So got two little girls who have grown out of our other house, so had to get a new one. And moving itself is a tiring process, but it's exciting. I'm in my stone patio area, which is kind of cool. So I'm really and the weather's perfect right now. It's nice, about 60 degrees, which is nice. It's starting to transition to that nice fall weather, which is perfect for marathon training or cross country and all that stuff. So you're a coach or an athlete, this weather is nice and ideal. I'm on the East Coast in New York, so it's good weather. It is good weather. So hopefully you guys beat the storms as well. But all right, so I don't want to make you guys wait too long, but I want to go over training for sub 20. I mean, sub 20 is a pretty significant milestone for a lot of people. Hey, Billy, I really appreciate that, man. I really do. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that it helps. I really am. Ryan, good morning. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, Ryan. I definitely will. I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to be doing live discussions like this. I want to treat them as essentially like a coaching clinic. I'm going to do them every Saturday morning, as long as that works for you guys. And I want to continue growing this. So last week we talked about a sub 3:30 marathon. Today's the 5K. Next week I'm going to go back to sub 4-hour marathon. And then the weekend after, I'm talking about sub 19 5K. I'll work my way all the way down to sub 15 and probably sub 2:30 for the marathon as well. So I'm going to alternate them, marathon and 5K, and then I'll move on to some other events as well. No, thanks, Jack, man. I appreciate that. That's my goal here, to be as helpful as I can, to give back to the running community, help runners and coaches, and I want to make sure that you guys have as much information as possible. And in my videos, I don't care whether you're sub 15 or whether you're on a 40-minute 5K, you should have access to as much good training content as possible, period. I don't care how fast you are. So it doesn't really matter. But I want you to have that access. So, but let's get to it, okay? And if you have a pen and paper, definitely write some stuff down. This is some stuff from my sub 20 training video, and so you're probably familiar with this. But I want to go over some, where you should be essentially. Dimitri, good morning. Vo2 Max Mile Repeats pace for side. We're gonna get to that. Dude. All right. I have my stuff right here, my training stuff that it's all been calculated and written down, and we're gonna go over that. So, but in terms of a sub 20-minute 5K, the stuff I have here is essentially puts you at about low 1950. So it gives you a margin of error, it gives you some wiggle room. So where you should essentially be equivalent wise, you should be able to run a mile in about 5:47 to 5:48. Okay. Your 3K should be around 11:30, which is about 6:10 per mile. All right, it's almost a 15-second differential between the mile and the 5K. Obviously, your 5K should be at 6:22 to 6:23 per mile for a sub 20. Your 10K equivalent should be 41:08 or right around there, which is 6:37 per mile. All right, your half marathon equivalent should be about 131, a little over 131, 131.05, which is 6:57 per mile. And your marathon equivalent, if you're running those distances as well, should be around 3:09.48. So sub 3:10 should be about 7:14 per mile. So those are the equivalents for the events. And what that says is, eventually you should be able to run the longer races if you're running a sub 20-minute 5K. So with the training, as long as you're angling the training towards those events, you should be able to get close to those times in these events. The mile and the 3K are the two most closer indicators that you should be able to run before you can run a sub 25K. But if for some reason you break 20 minutes, but you don't run these events, that's just an indication that to run a little bit more speed development training and stuff like that. And that's where I wanted to just mention when I talk about the 1 mile time trial, and which is a really, really important thing to do. Okay. Hey, good morning. Good morning, Samir. It's a really, really important thing to do. And if you haven't seen that video, take a look at it. It's in the description. What it tells you is if you're closer to 3K and 5K than you are the 800 and the 400, based on what you run for the mile, then it's a sign to improve speed development or increase it. If you're closer to the shorter events, the 4 and the 8, than you are the 3K and the 5K, it's a sign to increase either training volume or do a little bit more threshold training, tempo runs, Vo2 Max training, and stuff like that. So that's important. Okay, and while I'm here, so who asked me? Dimitri, right? Vo2 Max Mile Repeats in this situation, you'll be around 6:15 to 6:20 per mile. Which is pretty much 5K pace. So, I mean, if you can get to the point where you're doing three times a mile with a 3-minute recovery at 5K pace, you're in good shape. If you could do 4, that's a really good thing. Really, really good thing. So, all right, so we talked about equivalent times here. I want to stick with the focus on specifically to go from sub 22 to sub 20. Well, the stuff that I'm talking about now, I'm going to talk about training paces and certain workouts. These are paces you want to be building towards. Okay, doesn't mean you necessarily have to do them now, but if your goal is sub 20, you're building towards these paces. Okay, so keep this in mind, Samir, because these are the things to write down and say, okay, this is my easy runs, and so on. You gradually, over time, build the paces and increase the paces towards these. Okay, so training paces itself, easy runs, you're looking at about 8:45 to 8:15 per mile. Okay, steady runs, 8:15 to 7:45 per mile. Right? Anaerobic threshold, 2 different ones. Anaerobic threshold, which is a 20 to 30 minute continuous run, that you're looking to be around 6:55 to 7 minutes per mile. All right, and then you're building towards 20 to 25 minutes of consecutive running at that pace. Aerobic threshold, which is a little bit slower, which is generally closer to marathon pace, and that's a run that you build from 30 to 60 minutes. That's 7:10 to 7:15 per mile. You build these things into your training. You can do an anaerobic threshold run, the shorter one, once per week, once every other week. You can do the aerobic threshold one once every week or once every other week as well. You build it into the training. Well, so Jack, this is where you want to improve. These are the paces you want to be focusing on here. Okay, and if you run a 5:20 mile, that definitely suggests closer to probably a sub 18 or close or sub 19, and so these are the things you want to be building towards right here in workouts. So I'll give you some workouts as well. All right, so it's a threshold pace now. This is important for cruise reps or cruise intervals. Okay, so you say cruise 800s, which is a run that you do, repeats you do. And in this particular instance, if you could build to where you're doing maybe 6 or 7 of these, 8 in some instances with a 1-minute recovery, the goal is to do them at 322 to 323 per rep. Okay, so 6 to 8 times an 800, 322 to 323 with 1-minute recovery. You're building towards that. Don't worry if you can't do this volume now. It's okay. Okay, 345 with 2 minutes rest. Yeah, so that's more of a sub 19 workout, Jack. But that means increasing, threshold stuff like this as well would really help you. So instead of those, try to do the cruise thousands with a 1-minute recovery, 413 to 414 per rep. Okay, doing workouts that fast, but if you can't run races that kind of complement it, that means to slow down a little bit. It's a good sign to slow down. Okay, or slow things down and kind of build into the rest of your training. Okay, so it's something to keep in mind. That's a frustrating part of running performance, but it's also very telling. It tells you things that you need to work on. So, and along these same lines, so we did the 800s and the 1000s, and these are pretty much the same pace itself, but the distance gets longer. So next up is 1200 meters, cruise 1200s with a 75-second recovery, 503 to 505 per rep. Okay, And then lastly, cruise 1600s or cruise mile repeats. These are with a 90-second recovery. And these are running 647 to 649 per mile. Okay, 90-second recovery. So you're building into these things. Okay, so if you could do 5 to 6 times, or you build towards 5 to 6 times 1,000 at this pace, that's a good thing. You build towards 4 to 5 times 1,200 at this pace, that's a good thing at these threshold pace. So you build towards 3 to 4 times a mile at threshold pace, that's a good thing. And 4 times a mile at threshold pace is a little bit better idea than 4 times a mile at 5K pace, especially early to mid-season, depending on how long you're giving yourself to train for these races. So volume, you can do more at threshold pace than you can at race pace, especially for long reps. So if you get to the point where you can run a 5 to 6 sub 625. Well, you won't need to run that many. If you're training for a 5K, you don't need to run that many of those. That's 6 of them is a lot at 5K pace. If you could do 4 of them with a 2:30 or 3-minute recovery at 5K pace, that's a good sign you should be able to run that 5K pace. But you're also running, remember, it's also important to run some 800s at 3K pace, some 400s or what like that at mile pace, equivalent pace. Also building into these threshold runs, and that's another thing. So let's talk about the anaerobic threshold tempo, the continuous 20 to 25 minute. I've done a video that shows you how to kind of build into it. So let's go over that a little bit. I'm going to give you 4 pieces. So let's say 20 minutes, right? You want to build towards a 20-minute consecutive run at 6:55 to 7-minute pace. Okay. So how do you break it up in pieces? We'll do it in 6 pieces actually. This first time you're going to do 12 minutes, but you do 2 times 6 minutes. Okay. You take a 2-minute recovery in between. 2 times 6 minutes the first time at this goal pace, 6:55 to 7 minutes. And let's just say 2 weeks later, then you add that together, you do 12 minutes consecutively at that goal pace. This shows you how to build into the tempo at the goal pace without trying to go out and do 20 minutes right off the bat and not being able to do it. Okay, so the second time you're doing 12 miles consecutively. Then 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks, you do 2 times 8 minutes, which is 16 minutes total, with the same 2-minute recovery at the same pace. 2 weeks after that, you try to do the 16-minute consecutive at 6:55 to 7 minutes per mile. Okay. 5th piece, 2 times 10 minutes at 2-minute recovery with 2-minute recovery at the same pace, 6:55 to 7 minutes. And then lastly, you try to do that 20-minute consecutive run at 6:55 to 7-minute pace. You've built into the goal tempo run, because I've seen people try to go right off the bat and try to do 20 minutes, and they fall off after 10 or 12 minutes or whatever it is, and then it gets frustrating and you can't lock into paces. This teaches you how to identify the pace right off the bat and build on it so that you're locking in right away, if that makes sense. And this is where Jack guidance comes into play, a little bit more detailed coaching. If you have specific questions, reach out to me directly. Okay, either at my top of the line running, my Instagram page, or my email, blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com, and send me your training. I'll look at it and I'll give you some suggestions on how to structure things and whatnot. So I'd be happy to help you. Let's see what else we got here. So that's the threshold pace, anaerobic threshold tempo pace you want to build into, right? So that's a way of doing it. I appreciate that, Samir. I appreciate that, buddy. So that's one way of doing that. Okay. Now let's talk about intervals. Okay, more closer to race pace stuff. So mile repeats. Again, 6:14 to 6:16. It's a little bit faster than 5K pace, but if you can get to doing 3 of them, that's good. If you could do 4 of them with a 3-minute recovery, very good. Okay, 1,200 meter efforts. Okay, now you're doing 2:30 recovery. 4:41 to 4:39 is the pace range you want to be looking at. All right, and again, and these are a little slightly faster than the mile repeats. 1,000 meter efforts, 3:53 to 3:54. Okay, this is a little bit closer to your 5K pace range. 2-minute recovery. Okay, 800 meter efforts, 3:06 to 3:07. 2-minute recovery. Okay, and let's say you do 5 to 6 times 1,000, 6 to 7 times 800s or something like that. Now the 400 meter efforts are closer to 3K pace equivalent. So in this case, it's 130 to 131 or 90 to 91 seconds per 400. Okay, do that with Start with 90-second recovery. And this is a workout you can repeat and cut to 75 seconds and then cut to 60 seconds. But it's at 3K equivalent pace. Okay? You're building towards, let's say, 10 to 12 to 14 of these reps. The 3K efforts are closer to mile equivalent pace, so 64 to 65 per 300. If you can do that with a minute recovery, you build towards 5, 6, 7 of them. This is good. You can even build that towards at the end of a tempo run or something like that. You add a couple of them, or you can do it a workout itself. Not every workout needs to be a 5K pace or long. Okay, these are speed development components as well. And lastly, the 200-meter efforts at mile pace are a little bit faster. You're looking to run them in 41 to 42 seconds. And if you can do those with a 30-second recovery, let's say you do 5 or 6 of them, or even up to 8 of them, either at the end of an easy run or a workout itself, you can even do that at like a 10-minute tempo and then add some 200s or 300s at the back end of it. There's a different way you can combine threshold and tempo with some speed development, both of which are helpful in one workout without doing too much of one and too little of another. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Eric. Yeah, I mean, sub 22 to sub 20. I mean, you want to calculate the paces. These paces I've given you, the paces you're building towards for these to get to sub 20. So again, feel free to send me your training at blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com or message me at Top of the Line Running, my Instagram page. I'll look at it and I'll give you some feedback on your training and how to structure it accordingly to help you keep progressing. So I'll be happy to help. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah, I mean, it's pacing. Pacing has to do with it too, and that's why I say when you start a workout, let's say you're doing your threshold thousands, right? This is at 6:55 to 7-minute pace. That's why I say do a couple of 200s in the beginning. You do a 200, and in this case, let's say you run 50 to 51, which is pretty much 6:55 to 7-minute pace. You do 2 times a 200 after your warm up and your drills with a 200-meter jog recovery, which helps you lock into the pace of your workout. And then you do your repeats, your 800s or your 1000s, so that you find the pace before having to use part of the workout to find it. Okay, that's the point of doing those 200s before you start your workout, and you can even bookend it at the end of your workout to give you more, 2 times 200 with the same jog recovery at the end, so you can lock into these paces. It's always good if you're doing longer reps as the workout, you can do some 200s to start with it at the goal pace, and then at the end of it too, so you lock into your pace without having to use a portion of your workout to find it. So that's a good thing to do. PR is 21:55. I'm not sure you can handle. You don't need to do sub 20. If your PR is 21:55, then you're progressing gradually towards these paces. So wherever you're at, go time bit faster, and you do it in 3 to 4 week blocks so your body adapt to it, and then you try and test yourself at mile 3K or 5K. Okay, let the body tell you when you're ready to start training at a faster pace. And how do you do that? You run a time trial. You let times in performances or time trials tell you when you're ready to increase training intensity, and not before that. A lot of people try to go too fast too soon, and they wonder why they're not running better. This is why. You have to be training at your current paces, okay, based on your current fitness to continue moving forward the way you want to move forward. So I would test yourself. Put yourself through a mile time trial, okay? See how hard you run a mile on a track. Then set your training paces accordingly. Okay, watch my mile time trial video because I have all the paces calculated and broken down. And if you need help with that, run a 1 mile time trial. Again, send me a message or an email, and I can help you calculate your training paces based on what you run for that, because you'd be training in the right training zones based on where your fitness is at now, not sub 20. So that's a step in getting there. Quads get really sore even when they try to rest more. Are you doing a good flexibility routine? Is one question, Jack. Watch my flexibility stretching video, stretching routine, how to do pre and post workout, okay? But especially pre, to help loosen up your hip flexors, quads, hamstrings, calves, and all that stuff. I'm a Wharton trained and certified musculoskeletal flexibility therapist, so this is one of my wheelhouses, and flexibility and making sure that you're basically putting WD-40 on your joints and muscles is very, very, very important. So definitely watch that video. I encourage you to. You'll get some insight in terms of how to get your body ready for the activity. All right. maybe incorporate. Yeah, I mean, strength work is one, flexibility is another. And you can do stuff at home. If you want me to do a live video in terms of strength and flexibility, let me know, guys, and I'll do that. Okay. To go over from marathon to 5K training after a marathon training block, I usually feel like those fitting. Yeah, I mean, see, this is a good 100 max. I mean, I encourage folks to do it when you do a marathon training cycle. Okay, take your recovery, and then the next cycle, I encourage folks to do a 5K to 10K, even up to a half marathon training cycle, because it acts as speed development for the marathon, and then you can go back up after that and do a marathon block if you need to. I don't recommend any more than 2 marathons per year, to be honest, so that you have enough time to recover and do these components as well, because the better range you have, the better off you're going to be. But I definitely would, yeah, and you don't need the same training volume for 5K specific training. But if you want me to actually do a video how to transition from a marathon cycle to a 5K cycle and then back up, I can do that too. So 100 max, if you want me to do that, just let me know. Put it, if you can't put it in this comments, go to the video after it ends and put it in those comments, and I'll do that. But because it is very, very important, transitioning back downward and training at a little bit more intense speed can only help your running economy, and running economy is much more important as you go up to the marathon. So this is you make a good point. Okay, but the easiest way to do it is just to kind of keep the volume at lower, emphasize 5K, 3K, 10K type training, build into these anaerobic threshold runs and aerobic threshold runs, so that you have that component of your training as well, because it filters upward very nicely, just like marathon training filters downward very nicely. So they complement each other really well. Okay. But if you want me, I can go into detail with that. Your hip flexor. So yeah, watch my stretching video, because I go over hip flexors as well. And again, I can do a live one if you want me to. Take you through each stretch of the routine. Longest I've ever done without stopping. Longest long run. Well, the marathon itself, but long run leading up to the marathon, I went 22 miles. I've never gone 50 to 100 miles. No, I've never done that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 100 max. Hope you found a situation there. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, no, I get it, guys. What rope is, not just a rope, but you can even use a long sleeve t-shirt or something like that. Go to Wharton Fitness or Wharton Performance. I'll actually link the website where you can actually get the stretching rope itself. That's specific to the Wharton flexibility. I will link it in this video after the video, so you know exactly where to order it if you want one. It's specific to the rope stretching group. I'll link that in a video. Just give me a little while. It'll be up later today in the description section of the video. Okay. So you ran a half this morning. You bonked around 11, 12 miles. I'm afraid it will complete collapse. Well, no. You have to gradually build that long run up over time. And you also have to give yourself enough time. And that's the other thing. Some folks, you got to give yourself, I encourage give you folks 16, 20 weeks to build up. And it's got to be gradual building of the long run. And you got to practice fueling so that your body doesn't crash. So these things you practice in these long runs, but you got to give yourself enough time. And if you need to give yourself more time, that's totally fine. Give yourself 6 months to train for a marathon. Totally fine. Totally fine. Especially if you have issues like this, those are things you work on in the training. Okay. Off topic. 800 meter training. I'm going to do some 800 meter training videos, Jack. Don't worry. I'm going to get to everything. Everything. Those who are more speed oriented, yeah, I'm going to do a 400, 800 type video. I'll definitely do that. And I'm also going to do 800 mile, because it's slightly different than 4.8. So I'm going to do both. I will do both. Hey, Ryan. Off season? Well, it depends on what you're training for. For 5K, I mean, you obviously you build a base, right? And actually take a look at my summer base training videos, because you'll see how I break it down. You do like a base. Let's say you give yourself 10 weeks, and every couple of weeks you add a component to it. So you build up your miles to where you want to be first of all, over the first 3 to 4 miles, and then you start to add little components of speed development, flat sprints, and then you add hill running, and then you add some threshold or tempo runs as well to make sure that you're ready to transition into the harder stuff when the actual competition season starts. That's the way to kind of gradually do it so that you're not wearing yourself out, but it's an easier transition into race pace training, into harder stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. Watch my summer base training videos. You'll get, it's completely broken down for you, so you'll get that insight. But I can do a live video on that too if you want me to. So fueling be something else than gel. Yeah, it can be. I mean, water and Gatorade mixes. It depends on what works, what's easily digestible for you. So, and everybody's kind of digestive system is a little bit different when they're running a marathon. But I would try gels, try even a power bar if you need to. Just slight pieces, and water mixed with Gatorade to get some electrolytes and fuel. Everything's got to be gradual. You sip it. It's got to be easily digestible. You practice these things during your long run itself. Okay? You're welcome, man. Yeah. Coca-Cola, no. I wouldn't do Coca-Cola. Chocolate, I would do afterward. Chocolate has dairy. It can wreck your stomach during a long run or a marathon. The last thing you want to do is have to take a dump during the marathon, or a long run. But chocolate's a good post-run recovery meal. It's got protein in it, and it's a really, really good post-run. You put some of that in your body within 30 to 40 minutes if you can, with a banana or a bagel or something like that after a long run. And it'll help you increase your recovery time or speed up the recovery time. But definitely not during. My pleasure. COVID, yeah. I mean, there's lack of competition with COVID, Ryan. You're absolutely right. So this is the time to focus on speed development and things like this, where it doesn't take as much time out there, but you can. My height and weight, when I was running fast, I'm 5'10". I was about 130 pounds when I'm running fast. Now I'm about 165, 170. I don't run 80, 90 miles a week anymore. I'm heavy into martial arts, and I've been to a long time. So I got vaccinated, Dimitri, not microchipped. There's no microchip in my vaccination. I got vaccinated. Yeah, I've got 2 daughters, and I'm married, so, and I don't want to catch it and go to the hospital. So yeah, I got vaccinated a long time ago. No microchips. So I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about people catching it around me and giving it to my daughters. So Jack, I've got a 4th degree black belt now, a 4th degree black belt in Hapkido, and a 4th degree black belt in Tung Sudo, which is similar to Taekwondo. And I'm training towards, I want to get a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. So I'm doing it for about 18 years. So 18. Nice work, Jack. So you must be a fellow black belt, so welcome, dude. Congrats, good job. It's awesome. Cool. All right, if you guys have any this video or in my my Instagram running page, top of the line running, so I'll be happy to answer them. 4th down Titan. Nice, dude. Nice, Jack. Very nice, buddy. Very, very nice. So, all right, so reach out to me, email, message. Good job today. I hope I was helpful. Thanks so much for coming, guys, and for your support. Please hit that like button. It's really helpful to this growth of this this channel. It's greatly appreciated too. 2 to 3 times, Ryan, for specific strength training routine. It's got to be running functional, so I can go over that as well. Running specific functional training. So we'll go over a strength training video too. So you guys have been putting up some good ideas. So I appreciate you guys. So thanks for coming on. Have a great weekend. Talk to you next time.